There have been other instances where rangers alerting to an issue has been mistaken for a blood sugar alert, where Liam might be a little bit embarrassed. Hey, buddy, it's okay. I'm
Mhm.
fine. Calm it down, calm it down. And then they realize, oh, this isn't my blood sugar is perfectly in range. He's not
Mhm.
complaining about that. He's really upset because, oh, lo and behold, there's a dead body. So,
Welcome back for another edition of the Cozy Pet Podcast, the one and only podcast dedicated specifically to finding out more about the animals in our favorite cozy mystery books. I'm Chris Abernathy, author of the Detective Whiskers Cozy Mystery Series, and our guest today is author Erin Hayden. Welcome, Erin.
thank you. It's a pleasure.
Very nice to see you. So you've got several interesting books out, but today we're focusing on your Vista del Vino mysteries, and specifically Ranger, who is a diabetic alert dog. And that's not just something you chose to write about randomly, is it?
No, it's not. My writing journey in general started in response to my son, who's type 1 diabetic. He was diagnosed at 1 year old. I've been an academic writer for a long time. I have a master's degree in creative writing and a PhD in literacy education. I've been a teacher for far too long. I don't like to date myself, but I started teaching in 1998. But most of my writing was academic in nature. And I started writing back in 2014 after he was diagnosed. And when he turned 12, so several years later, I realized there weren't really a lot of books about him or for him, for kids living with diabetes and celiac too, as he has. So I started writing a middle grade series, but one of the books was a mystery. And I just loved it so much. And I said, I got to write more mysteries. I'm just in love with this. And really for the moms to represent their jobs raising kids with, whether it's diabetes or other, conditions, special needs. And what better way to do that than to bring in a diabetic alert dog into the diabetes world of our cast of characters. So,
Mhm. So in the series, we got Casey Nolan and
mhm,
her diabetic son, Liam, and he's
mhm.
also celiac, right?
He is.
All right, so she's got a
Yeah,
lot on her plate.
yeah, Casey has a lot on her plate, and she did recently divorce and move back with her mom because her husband wasn't up to the task of co-parenting a kid with, medical conditions, and it happens. There are a lot of fabulous dads and moms out there, but sometimes, it puts a strain on marriage for sure. And so Casey's recently divorced, but her mom's a wonderful cook, fortunately, and has risen to the task of cooking lots of gluten-free meals. So the book does feature a lot of gluten-free recipes at the back.
And I've
Um,
noticed that some of the readers have mentioned that in their reviews that they really like those recipes.
yeah. Well, I think, in the world of cozy mysteries, you tend to see a lot of baking, cupcakes
Right.
and
Right.
cakes and things like that. And I thought it'd be nice to spin off from there a little bit. Sometimes we get a little tired of lemon frosted cupcakes, and it's only so many. So I always have a sweet treat in there, but then I also try to bring in some things that maybe my readers haven't ever thought about, things from different cultures and um, you know, maybe I'll bring in some things from my experiences living in Hawaii or in the most recent book, Irish specialties or whatever. I try and just get really creative, but they always have either a gluten-free option or they're just naturally gluten-free, like uh, enchiladas, made with corn tortillas or something like that. So it's a lot of fun. I actually found, I don't know how to make this work with a dog, but there are alert dogs out there, diabetic alert dogs like Ranger, and they can sniff out blood sugars as they change and alert their people, their humans, to those fluctuations in blood sugar. I don't know what they could do for celiac. I don't know that there's such a thing. Celiac is a little bit more prevalent in the stories just because, as we've found and a lot of families found, when you have both conditions, the celiac kind of rises to the top. You can always give insulin, but you can't always find a gluten-free meal when you're on the run. So that's the biggest burden that this family tends to deal with. That and, dead bodies popping up here and there. But
That's pretty amazing that a dog can tell blood sugar. I'm just absolutely blown away, as everybody is, by
yeah,
the things that dogs are able to do. So Ranger keeps Liam alive and healthy to the best of his ability.
it
Does
is.
he also get involved in solving the crimes?
He does. And so in the first book, I will admit I tried to really downplay the diabetes aspect. I wanted it to be a cozy mystery that everyone could enjoy, and there was just a little bit of representation in there. And with that, came Ranger taking a little bit of a back seat because I didn't want diabetes to be front and center at the for the story. Ranger was often somewhere off in the background while Casey was going out and doing things. By book two, I said, Ranger's really got to be pulled into this story a little bit more. So he is the one who finds the dead body. And as we go through the series now, I just published book four this week. Ranger's always there. Ranger's finding clues. Ranger's helping Casey. Casey surely wouldn't find all of the suspects and the major evidence that she does without Ranger's help. Fortunately for Casey, her son is now a teenager and he's in high school. And unlike his days in middle school, he's decided he doesn't really want to bring a diabetic alert dog to school. So, the ADA protections allow for kids to bring service animals, licensed service animals, to school. In middle school, before this series started, Ranger was able to go to school with Liam, but Liam is too cool for school now, and he does not want to bring Ranger to school with him. So fortunately, Casey has a sidekick with her all throughout the school day, which is really helpful, when writing a mystery with a dog sidekick.
And I think you've got another animal that's just come into the storyline with book four, haven't you?
I do. And so I really wanted to lean into this aspect of dogs providing services. We all know how wonderful it is to have just a regular everyday pet. Having any kind of pet is a major source of comfort and company for a lot of people. But I don't think a lot of people realize the work that so many dogs out there do. And so we have a character that was introduced earlier in the series. He did lose his mom and he's been adopted. And, there's some trauma that comes from losing a biological parent. And so in book four, the idea is introduced that he's going to get a certified emotional support animal. And, there's all different ranges. Some people just have a lot of times you can just go and get a designation, so you can have your pet in an apartment that otherwise doesn't allow dogs, and people do
Right.
that. But there are actually service animals that are trained to work with people with PTSD. They might work with military vets or people who've been through major psychological trauma. And so the second dog coming in will be that kind of service animal. But of course, this dog will be best friends with Ranger because now I have to have the two dogs hanging out together a lot.
Right. So tell me can you give me any hint without giving away any plot lines really about something specific that the Ranger has done that's really made a difference in an investigation?
Sure. Well, diabetic alert dogs are known for their noses. All dogs have a better sense of smell than humans, but um, Labradors in particular, they tend to be diabetic alert dogs, so they have heightened sense of smell compared to even other dogs. And so sometimes when out and about, Ranger will just happen to find something that was tied to either the victim or the
Mhm.
killer. I'm always wondering, can I say that? Because, I get used to social media platforms and I'm wondering, can I say that word? Are they going to shut me down? But yeah, so, the murderer um, might have left something, a piece of clothing, for example, that Ranger has sniffed out, or it might be something that fell off the victim's body. And that's how we find that there is a victim in the first place. So those types of sniffing capabilities definitely come in handy.
So how does Ranger communicate this? Obviously, he's got skills that he's trained to do for the diabetic alert part
Mhm.
of what he does. How does he let Casey know if he's found a clue that's important? Because we got
Well,
a lot of cozies will have the animals that can talk with their human.
yep.
In my series, that's absolutely not the case, and that's to
Nope.
me a lot of the fun is trying to figure out how to tell the human what they know.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, I started writing a while ago, and all of my background was in first academic writing and then creative nonfiction.
Mhm.
I've always been a fairly grounded in reality type of person.
Yeah.
I don't, my brain doesn't go to the supernatural, and no, animals don't talk in my book. So, in book one, and this isn't too much of a spoiler because it happens pretty early on, the reason we learn about the victim is that he comes trotting in with a watch in his mouth. I mean, it, and the people in the room realize, uh-oh, that watch belongs to so and so, and that watch should be on their body because they never take it off. So, it's practical and it's completely possible that a dog could find something belonging to a human and just carry it in and be there. There have been other instances where rangers alerting to an issue has been mistaken for a blood sugar alert where Liam might be a little bit embarrassed. Hey, buddy, it's okay. I'm
Mhm.
fine. Calm it down, calm it down. And then they realize, oh, this isn't my blood sugar is perfectly in range. He's not
Mhm.
complaining about that. He's really upset because, oh, lo and behold, there's a dead body. So, but they're
You-
quite used to ranger doing things like pawing for attention, so and that's the way diabetic alert dogs are trained, is usually there is a signal specifically for a high or a signal specifically for a low. And so, but that's how dogs often communicate anyway, right? Is they'll
right.
paw at you or they'll jump up on you and you're
Mhm.
trying to train them, hey, we don't do that. That's not how you get attention. Maybe you turn your body away to ignore them because you don't want to reinforce the behavior. But dogs have a way of communicating just naturally, and that's what Ranger does.
Mhm. Now, you have to wonder, or at least I do, if we ever did have a chance to have a conversation with our pets, would they have like a mental list ready to tell, I told you this, I told you that, I could have saved you so much trouble.
Saved you so much time. You know, I wonder, I might have thought that a couple weeks ago before my son brought his dog home from school. This dog cracks me up. So we actually have a ranger at home. He is not a diabetic alert dog. Um, but we also now have Diesel. My son is an auto mechanic and he has a dog named Diesel. You can put two and two together on that one. And he's a border collie. And this border collie cracks me up because our little ranger golden doodle, this little 23-pound whatever, will sit there, hanging out by the door, just watching the world go by. And Diesel will come up to him, right? Like he's sneaking up on him. But Ranger will be sitting there looking at him, right? And my mom and any of us will be sitting there like Diesel, like you are not stealthy. You are not sneaky. So, I would love to credit him with being super smart and being able to solve all the world's crimes, but sometimes I think he really is just a dog.
So the series is set in in a vineyard.
Mhm.
Um, Pretty easy to figure out from the title of the series.
Yeah.
Um, do you get because I've got in my series with Detective Whiskers, I've got the four lady friends that get together and drink margaritas quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
And I get a little bit of kickback on that, pushback from some of the readers that aren't too happy with the alcohol consumption. I guess maybe you don't get that because it's right there in the title of the
Like,
series, so everybody
there's
knows what
going to
to
be
expect.
alcohol consumption involved. Yes. I have put it out there, and if that's not what you want, then yeah, it's you probably don't want a wine-based mystery. And it even I go so far as to bring in other alcohols as well. So
Mhm.
in the St. Patrick's Day mystery, there is a lot of beer consumption. And one of the secondary characters, Casey Nolan's best friend from childhood, um, she has a brother. So a little bit of a backstory line here is everyone has recently come back to Vista del Vino. Harper, the best friend, and her brother Tyler, they both moved out of town. They moved away from the vineyard. They left the vineyard to their parents around the same time that Casey Nolan went off to New York and started working for the New York Times, and they all went their separate ways.
And she was an
But
investigative journalist, right?
she was an investigative journalist, which of course makes her qualified for solving mysteries,
Right.
right?
Hey,
Um,
if you give me a choice, please don't take offense to this. I've worked with police officers, I've worked with investigative journalists. If I really want to know something, I'm going to that investigative journalist first.
I agree. So I'm definitely inspired by Jessica Fletcher and the writer in her and all of that because clearly you're brilliant if you're a writer and you're a researcher, and that's all you
Right.
need. So you
Right.
don't need a badge. But anyway, so Harper and her brother Tyler also left. Everyone went off to college, went their own ways. And Harper has an MBA and she was trying to run a small business. Her marriage fell apart. She came back home. And her brother Tyler he got a degree in Colorado in brew science. And so he was looking to open up a microbrew. And everyone had their wonderful lives set up, but Harper and Tyler's parents died mysteriously. Whether or not that comes back in and Casey decides to investigate that down the road is still to be determined. But she helps her friends get the vineyard back on track in the wake of their parents' death. And there's this part of Tyler who he's happy to be restoring the family business and helping his sister and doing all of these things, but his heart is with brew science.
Hmm.
And he has made an announcement recently that he may not love staying with wine. And so there was also another part in one of the books where there was a fire that happened, and there was an incident where one of the vineyards fell apart, and we're looking at an orchard and some cidery production.
Hmm.
So I'm really having fun exploring all of the different types of alcohol consumption and all of these people who are just making and I guess in my mind, it's almost like I'm channeling my Irish grandmother who was making gin in her bathtub during, and so everyone in this series has a hand in making some kind of alcohol. So,
So when you go on wine tastings, you get to write that off on your taxes.
you know, I hope so.
I'm not going to ask for the details of your tax return, but
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do have a lot of fun. And I've learned a lot about, wine production and otherwise. I mean, I did not realize how wonderful it is to create wine in concrete as opposed to, most people think about the metal and the woods and all of those things. And I learned a lot about uh, wine with concrete, and it wasn't something I had thought to even investigate until I started writing this series. So it's fun where I've always been a wine drinker. You think you know some things about, and I actually went to cooking school for a while and I took, sommelier classes and things like that. But there's a lot I didn't learn, especially because I was a culinary school dropout. But but just been having a lot of fun learning the ins and outs of small vineyards. So
Cool.
yeah.
It's the exploration is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is so much fun about being an author is just you the things that we learn so that we can share just a tiny bit of that knowledge with the readers as part of the story. All right, let me for anybody that's not doesn't really know what's going on with your stories, let's just read the book description for book one in the series here. Um, a vineyard, a vendetta, and a very dead vintner. Welcome to Vista del Vino, where the wine is bold, the gossip flows faster than the Cabernet, and murder has just been uncorked. Casey Nolan thought she was leaving the drama behind when she moved back to her hometown with her teenage son, Liam, and his loyal diabetic alert dog, Ranger. A fresh start, some much needed family time, and maybe even a chance to finally catch her breath after a rough divorce. But when a local winemaker turns up dead, Casey's investigative instincts kick in faster than you can say Malbec. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery and keep her friends out of the suspect pool, Casey starts digging, only to find that old secrets have deep roots and some people would kill to keep them buried. Between juggling single motherhood, Liam's type 1 diabetes and celiac disease, and the town's ever watchful eyes, Casey has her hands full. But with a little help from her friends and a few well-timed glasses of wine, she just might crack the case. That just sounds fun.
I thought so.
And something, again, that's very relatable to anybody, I think, but especially relatable to a specific group of people that, as you mentioned, are not very well represented in our culture, our pop culture, the TV, the books, and everything else. So it's nice to be able to have fun writing something, create something that you can be proud of, and at the same time bring a little bit of knowledge that helps some people feel more welcome in the world and helps other people understand their neighbors a little bit more in a way that they can connect to them, help them do things that they might be, get some questions answered that they may be scared to ask.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree. And actually, going back to something we talked about earlier, there's also a little bit of a self-serving from an author point of view. When you include something like, or a dog, like a service dog, you can put them in places that you wouldn't put other dogs.
Right.
So I've seen people complain sometimes about dog or pet-based mysteries saying, well, how come they're not there more? How come, this person's going out into the world and their cat didn't come along? Well, you can't take a cat to the grocery store. That's just not something that most grocery stores will allow you to do.
Right.
Um, in some of the mysteries where you have, supernatural or something, the pet will maybe pop up somewhere, and that's a different story altogether. But like I mentioned before, I tend to ground myself firmly in reality. So for me, it really opens up possibilities where this dog can pretty much go wherever any human can go because it's the service dog.
Yeah.
So from a writing standpoint, it actually gives me a lot more leeway than I would have otherwise. So
Yeah. My Detective Whiskers, there's a scene where he has to go into a seafood restaurant and he has to be sneaky about it because
yeah,
they don't really want a cat in a seafood restaurant.
right.
So you can have
Of
fun with
all
it either
places.
way, but yeah, he couldn't be doing that all the time,
Yeah.
whereas Ranger can. So
Yeah.
that's a nice little twist there that helps you open up some doors. Very well done.
Uh-huh.
I love your covers, by the way.
Oh, thank you. They're actually just redone. So, admittedly, when I first started writing, I thought I just need to get these stories out into the world and the covers will take care of themselves down the road. But as we all come to learn, everyone judges a book by their covers.
Mhm. Yeah,
So finally, I took some time to I put writing on hold for a little bit to make sure these covers got done right. So I wanted to make sure that was all redone before book 4 came out.
mhm.
And so now I feel like I'm on a pretty good path as I'm mapping out book 5 as we speak.
Yeah. And not to knock any of your other books, but I did notice that there was definitely a difference between the covers on this series and the other covers that you got out there. Of course, your other covers, you're writing different things. It's not all cozy mysteries.
No, that's true. But also, when you come into the world of indie publishing, and especially when you come into it like I did, where you kind of have this real sense of purpose. I've been writing for a long time, but now I have this real sense of purpose to bringing these books out into the world. I didn't have the money up front to say, okay, I'm
Mhm.
just going to lay out thousands of dollars to make sure I get all the great covers. It'll be
Yeah,
fine. Let me do the stories. But then I realized, well, the stories only do so much for people. First, they have to see them, they have to find them, they have to be willing to open them.
yeah,
So, a little bit of reality, and I'm really happy with the covers.
yeah. I had when my series was newer, I had somebody that come. Posted on social media an AI generated image, which I know there's a lot of controversy about. And somebody jumped on me and just really, really harshly criticizing me for using AI art. I'm like, my cover artist has made more money from my books than I have.
Mm, right,
I am supporting actual artists.
right,
Um, so please give me a little bit of grace. But
right.
we all have to have our own thoughts on that. Everybody can have their own opinions and do what your conscience tells you to do. I don't want to get off too deep into that subject,
Yeah,
but
that can be an ugly rabbit hole.
yeah. But just I guess my point is give people a little bit of grace. But yeah, the it is a big investment to get not just good covers, but the right covers for your book. That it's not just having a good picture, it's having an image that lets the reader know immediately this is the kind of book that I want to read.
Yeah, yep.
And it doesn't matter if you're a good artist or not, if you don't know how to do that, you need somebody else to help you with it to be able to get your book in the hands of as many of the right readers as possible. And that's where so many of us mess up. We'll get reviews on our books that aren't great reviews, and it's not actually anything to do with the quality of the writing. It's just the book ended up in the wrong hands, and sometimes the cover is the reason for that.
Yeah. And actually, along those lines, my mother was a graphic designer.
Mhm.
And she has a master's degree in fine arts. Both my parents were artists, and I grew up in a very art-based community, family. My mom was a typesetter for many years. She doesn't know about, and she will be the first one to admit, she was very happy to help me with typesetting. But in terms of coming up with those images and matching the fonts to what was out there, it's an expertise. You have to know the industry. So
All right.
yeah,
So before we run out of time, what's next for Ranger? He's got a new friend,
has a new friend.
and I know you're still writing the series. You just released a new book a week ago. You've got how many more do we expect? Do you know? Or
I mean, the sky's the limit at this point. I'm still happy with Casey, so I'm definitely not ready to write her off. Book 5 is already in the works, and that will be a summer mystery, The Dog Days of Summer, actually.
Mhm.
And it's a play, obviously, on the heat of summer, but also that we have multiple dogs now. So there'll be multiple dogs featured on the cover, which I'm excited about.
Nice.
And I already have a plan in mind for a winter book. So at least two more this year. Um, if I can do a third, we'll see. But I also promised my son a sixth book in the middle grade series. So I there's only so long I can kick that can down the road. So he's been really angry at me for neglecting his middle grade series. So probably two more in the cozy series for this year and one in the middle grade series for this year, which will probably also be a mystery.
Very good. All right. Well, Erin, it has been an absolute joy to meet you and chat with you about your books, and can't wait for the rest of the series to materialize.
Well, I appreciate it so much.
All right. You've all got some more books to go out and read, so we'll let you get to it. Erin Hayden has been my guest. Please check her out wherever you get your books. Well, that's a good question. Are you Amazon exclusive, or are you available in all the stores?
I am Amazon exclusive for digital right now at this time. Print obviously is in wherever, Barnes and
Mhm.
Noble or any place, basically the draft to digital pushes out. And that comes out through Ingram Spark. I believe all of the covers that we were just talking about should be updated now. If you're looking in other marketplaces, the old book covers should be dying away. Um, but yeah, you should be able to get print anywhere you want.
Very good. And where can people find
And
you
audio
online?
as well, actually.
Oh,
So, but that is also exclusive through Audible. Book 1 is already out, and then book 2 is in the works right now, and that should be coming out mid to late April, also on Audible.
yeah, my book too finally came out this week. Full cast. Let me tell you. See, I
Oh,
narrate audiobooks as well, but I
okay.
decided I needed to get some help from my friends. So I've got over 20 narrators.
Whoa. Wow. That's a big project. I'm
Whew,
not quite
yes, it
there.
is. Yes, it is. All right. So if people want to find you and interact with you, are you active on Facebook, other social media?
So, Bravery Books is the publishing umbrella that I publish all my books under. My website is braverybooks.com. On Facebook, I have a Bravery Books page. On Instagram, on TikTok, um, I also have Bravery Books. And on YouTube, it should be Bravery Books as well. I'm also on Blue Sky. I'm in quite a few places. I'm in a transition because I'm going through a divorce. So some people may find me as Erin Hayden Baldoff in some spaces. Erin Hayden is what I'm transitioning to. So one of those things. Good reads as well. They could find me there as well.
Very good. Well, Erin, thank you so much. Good luck
Mhm.
with the writing. Make sure your son is happy. Get that middle grade book out there.
Yes, yes,
And good luck to Ranger as he makes new friends.
yes, absolutely. Thank you.